Between 2008 and 2021, 379 people died taking photos at tourist destinations around the world. That's more than 4 times the number of people killed by shark attacks in the same period. Half of those deaths were falls from height, cliffs, mountains, and overlooks that tourists stepped too close to for one shot. These are 20 places where tourists risk their lives for a photo. 20. Pulpit Rock, Preikestolen, Norway. Pulpit Rock, known in Norwegian as Preikestolen, is a flat granite plateau that rises 1,982 feet above the Lysefjord in southwestern Norway. The top is roughly the size of a tennis court with no railings and sheer drops on 3 sides. More than 300,000 tourists visit every year. The site was featured in a Mission Impossible film, which drove a surge in visitors after 2018, many of them arriving specifically to recreate the famous cliff edge shot from the movie. In 2013, a Spanish tourist told his group he was stepping back to take a few more photos before they descended. His companions heard a scream. His body was found in the fjord below the following day. In June 2024, a man in his 40s fell from the plateau and died. He was traveling alone and was found with his phone. Police investigated it as a fall accident and said there was no reason to believe anything criminal had occurred. Norwegian authorities have repeatedly debated whether to install safety railings at Pulpit Rock. The decision has consistently been against them, partly to preserve the natural landscape and partly because officials argue that railings create a false sense of security that encourages people to take greater risks. The result is a 600-meter drop with nothing between the tourist and it but the ground beneath their feet. 19. Mount Hua Plank Walk, China. Mount Hua is one of China's 5 sacred mountains, sitting about 75 miles east of Xi'an in Shanxi province. At 7,070 feet, its south peak is the highest of its 5 summits. What draws tourists isn't the history or the Taoist temples carved into the rock. It's a narrow wooden walkway bolted to the side of a vertical cliff, barely 1 foot wide, with a straight drop below and nothing but a harness between the hiker and the valley floor. The plank walk stretches just over 300 feet along the cliff face. Tourists clip 2 carabiners to a guide rope and shuffle sideways across the planks, unhooking and rehooking as they pass anchor points. 1 missed clip, 1 wet plank, 1 moment of distraction for a photo, and there is nothing to stop a fall. Chinese officials have never released an official death toll, but locals and park staff have suggested the number could reach 100 fatal falls per year across the mountain. In 2019, a university student was photographing her trek and sharing the images with classmates in a group chat, right up until the messages stopped. Police later confirmed she had fallen from the western side of the mountain. Tourists still line up for hours to attempt the walk, many of them there for one reason: the photo. 18. Trolltunga, Norway. Trolltunga, which translates to Troll's Tongue, is a slab of rock that juts horizontally out of a Norwegian mountainside 700 meters above the lake below. There are no safety railings, no barriers, and no nets. The rock is so narrow at its tip that one wrong step in any direction ends the same way. Visitor numbers exploded from around 500 per year in 2009 to over 80,000 by 2016, driven almost entirely by photos of people posing on the edge going viral. In September 2015, 24-year-old Australian exchange student Christy Kafkalautis was waiting in a group to have her photo taken at the tip of Trolltunga. When it was her turn, she stepped slightly to the right to position herself and fell several hundred meters to her death. It was the first recorded fatal fall at the site. Her family later said she was trying to navigate around other people posing for photos when she lost her footing. Since that death, rescue teams have conducted around 40 operations per summer at Trolltunga, pulling out injured and exhausted tourists who underestimated the hike. The trail itself is a 27-kilometer round trip with over 3,600 feet of elevation gain. Many tourists arrive unprepared. Wrong shoes, no food, no experience, all for one photo on a rock with nothing but air beneath it. 17. Grand Canyon, USA. The Grand Canyon draws nearly 6 million visitors a year and sits at the top of almost every American bucket list. Most people come to see it. Some come to photograph themselves standing as close to the edge as physically possible. Between 2007 and 2023, the National Park Service recorded 185 deaths inside the park, with falling ranked as the second most common cause, accounting for 40 deaths over that period. In the spring of 2019 alone, 3 separate people died at the Grand Canyon within weeks of each other. One was a tourist from Macau who fell while taking photos at Eagle Point. Another was a 67-year-old man who lost his footing near the Yavapai Geology Museum while taking a selfie. A third was a woman walking near Mather Point who stepped off the rim while photographing with her family. 3 deaths, 3 weeks, all connected to photography near the edge. What makes the Grand Canyon especially dangerous is that the rim looks stable, but often isn't. Erosion creates thin layers of rock that can collapse without warning. There are no railings along much of the rim, and the drop can be hundreds of feet. Park rangers have a phrase they repeat to visitors: "This isn't Disneyland. People keep stepping over the barriers anyway." 16. Horseshoe Bend, Arizona, USA. Horseshoe Bend is one of the most photographed spots in the American Southwest. A sweeping 270-degree curve of the Colorado River, 1,000 feet below a sandstone cliff. Around 2 million people visit every year. The overlook has no fence along most of its edge, and for a long stretch of time, there were no safety barriers at all. The whole point for most visitors is to stand as close to the drop as possible and look straight down. Within a 6-year window, 3 people fell to their deaths at Horseshoe Bend. 2 falls happened in 2018. A third occurred in February 2022 when a 29-year-old man was seen stepping behind the safety railing. Witnesses told police he appeared to be repositioning for a photo. His body was recovered from hundreds of feet below. Authorities eventually installed a partial railing in some areas, but large sections of the rim remain completely open. The irony is that the shot everyone comes for, looking straight down into the river bend, only works if you're near the edge. That's not a coincidence. The photo and the danger are the same thing. Tourists know this and go anyway, and the falls continue. 15. Yosemite National Park, USA. Yosemite receives around 3.5 million visitors a year and is one of the most photographed national parks on Earth. Its granite cliffs, waterfalls, and valley overlooks produce images that end up on screensavers in travel magazines worldwide. They also produce a steady stream of fatal falls. Taft Point, one of the park's most popular photo spots, sits 7,500 feet above sea level with no fence and sheer drops of hundreds of feet in multiple directions. In 2018, Yosemite saw 3 photo-related deaths in a single year. An Israeli teenager fell more than 800 feet from a cliff while taking a selfie. Weeks later, an Indian couple set up a camera tripod near the edge of Taft Point for a photo, and both fell to their deaths. A park ranger later said that Taft Point in particular sees people behave in ways that are difficult to explain, standing within inches of a drop that offers 0 chance of survival. Social media has changed the way people interact with places like Yosemite. Trails that were once visited for the hiking experience are now visited for one specific photograph, and reaching that photograph means getting to a specific spot at a specific angle, regardless of what lies just past the frame. 14. Machu Picchu, Peru. Machu Picchu sits on a mountain ridge in the Andes at nearly 8,000 feet above sea level and is considered one of the new 7 wonders of the world. The 15th century Incan citadel draws over 1 million visitors a year. Its stone steps have been worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic. In the morning, the entire site is often wrapped in cloud and mist, making the ground wet and slippery from the moment tourists arrive. The combination of altitude, wet stone, and sheer drops makes it genuinely dangerous. In 2016, a 51-year-old German tourist bypassed safety barriers, entered a restricted area near a cliff edge, and fell to his death while attempting to take a photo. The restricted area existed for exactly that reason. His death was not the first, and the site has continued to see serious falls and injuries tied to tourists moving beyond marked boundaries in pursuit of a better shot. Peru's government has increasingly tightened access rules at Machu Picchu in recent years, limiting daily visitor numbers and requiring guided tours for many zones. The changes came partly in response to a pattern of tourists ignoring barriers, climbing on ruins, and approaching cliff edges in ways that repeatedly ended badly. 13. Cliffs of Moher, Ireland. The Cliffs of Moher rise up to 700 feet above the Atlantic Ocean along Ireland's western coast and attract over 1.5 million visitors a year. Between 1993 and 2017, more than 50 deaths were recorded at the cliffs. Some were suicides, but several were directly tied to tourists getting too close to the edge for photographs, on ground that is often wet, uneven, and crumbling. In January 2019, 26-year-old Anand Goel, a student visiting from India, was observed by multiple witnesses taking selfies near the cliff edge in the sunshine. Moments later, he fell backward off the cliff and into the ocean below. At the inquest, the coroner stated plainly that the man was taking selfies in what proved to be a very dangerous place. Witnesses described watching him fall in real time, in shock, unable to do anything. The cliffs have a marked walking path and basic barriers in some areas, but the edge itself remains largely open to preserve the natural landscape. That openness is also what makes the photos so dramatic. Tourists are repeatedly warned to stay on the path. The combination of sloped, damp ground and the pull of a stunning backdrop has proven to be more persuasive than any warning sign.
12. Plitvice Lakes National Park, Croatia.
Plitvice Lakes is Croatia's oldest and largest national park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site made up of 16 terraced lakes connected by waterfalls. It looks like something out of a painting. The walking paths run directly alongside the water, sometimes only inches from the edge of a drop. The park draws over 1 million visitors a year, most of them there specifically to photograph the turquoise water. In 2015, a 54-year-old Slovakian tourist fell to her death while attempting to take a selfie from a viewpoint. The following year, a Canadian tourist fell approximately 230 feet from a different overlook doing the same thing, and survived only because a tree branch broke his fall. The Croatian Mountain Rescue Service publicly called out tourists afterward, posting a message urging visitors to stop taking stupid and dangerous selfies. The danger at Plitvice is easy to underestimate because the scenery looks gentle, the lakes are calm, the paths are wooden, and the waterfalls are small compared to sites like Niagara or Victoria Falls. But the drops are real, the boards can be slippery, and people edging backward for a better angle have no idea what's behind them. 11. Pedra da Gavea, Brazil. Pedra da Gavea is a 2,769-foot coastal mountain in Rio de Janeiro, considered the largest coastal monolith in the world. The trail to the top takes around 3 hours and is steep and physically demanding. At the summit, there are no barriers, no railings, and no fencing. Just open rock and open air, with a nearly vertical drop straight down to the city and ocean below. It is known for having the highest accident rate of any hiking trail in Brazil. Tourists regularly film themselves edging down the near vertical face of the summit rock for photos. A video that went viral in 2020 showed a woman sliding to the very lip of the drop, arms outstretched, with thousands of feet of open air behind her. The internet reaction was a mix of admiration and horror. She survived. Others have not. The mountain has a documented history of fatal falls, particularly near the summit. Unlike some entries on this list, Pedra da Gavea is not a casual tourist attraction. Getting to the top requires a serious hike, but the social media visibility of the summit photos, specifically the ones taken at the most dangerous possible position, has drawn a growing number of visitors who come entirely for that one image. 10. Mount Vesuvius, Italy. Mount Vesuvius is the volcano that buried the city of Pompeii in 79 AD and killed an estimated 2,000 people in a matter of hours. It is still an active volcano. Its last eruption was in 1944. Today, it's one of Italy's most visited tourist sites, with a walking trail leading to the crater rim. Tickets are limited to 2,700 per day, but that hasn't stopped tourists from going off trail to get a closer look or a better photo. In July 2022, a 23-year-old American tourist left the marked path, climbed to an unauthorized section of the crater rim, and attempted to take a selfie. He dropped his phone into the crater and leaned forward to try to retrieve it. He fell several meters into the volcanic ash and had to be rescued by park guides who spotted him from a distance. He was pulled out with minor injuries. He and his companions were then arrested and charged with trespassing on a public monument. Vesuvius sits inside a national park where solo access to the upper crater is prohibited for safety reasons. The unauthorized areas have no stable footing, no barriers, and drop directly into an active volcanic crater. Park officials have repeatedly stated that the guides stationed at the summit are there specifically because tourists continue to ignore the boundaries. And without intervention, some of those situations would not end with minor cuts and bruises. 9. Angel's Landing, Zion National Park, USA. Angel's Landing is a 1,488-foot sandstone rock formation in Utah's Zion National Park, connected to the main trail by a narrow spine of rock with chains bolted into the cliff for hikers to hold. On either side of the spine, the drop is over 1,000 feet. It is consistently ranked one of the most dangerous hikes in the United States, and the number of people attempting it has surged sharply since Instagram made it one of the most recognizable trail photos in America. As of 2026, at least 18 people have died on or near Angel's Landing, 16 of them from falls. In 2021 alone, 2 men fell to their deaths within weeks of each other. Social media has played a direct role in the rising death toll, with guides and park officials noting that hikers are arriving who are not prepared for the trail, but are determined to get the summit photo. Handstand photos and yoga poses on the chain section have been widely shared online, further normalizing behavior that becomes fatal the moment anything goes wrong. The National Park Service introduced a permit system in 2022 to limit how many people could access the trail each day. The move was driven partly by safety concerns and partly by congestion on the chain section, where hikers passing each other on a surface barely wide enough for one person have been involved in multiple falls. 8. India's railway tracks. India has more selfie-related deaths than any other country on Earth, accounting for over 26% of the global total, according to the 2022 Journal of Travel Medicine study. A significant portion of those deaths happen on or near railway tracks. Between 2014 and 2024, at least 24 people died taking selfies involving trains, struck by oncoming trains, electrocuted while climbing on top of carriages, or falling from moving trains while filming. The appeal is visual. Indian railways carry some of the most dramatic and photogenic train scenes in the world. Crowded platforms, long curved tracks cutting through landscapes, and trains moving through cities at close range. The problem is that trains in India move fast, tracks are not always fenced off, and the sound of an approaching train can be masked by noise, distance, or earphones. People positioning themselves for photos on or near active tracks frequently don't hear what's coming. Mumbai alone declared 16 official no-selfie zones across the city in 2016, many of them near railways and coastal areas. The announcement came after a series of deaths that included an 18-year-old girl who drowned attempting a selfie near the ocean. Despite the designated zones and ongoing public warnings, the death toll has continued to climb. 7. Taj Mahal, India. The Taj Mahal in Agra, India, is one of the most photographed buildings on Earth and receives between 7 and 8 million visitors a year. It is widely seen as a benign, accessible tourist site. Marble walkways, open courtyards, gentle steps. That perception is exactly what makes it dangerous. Because the Taj Mahal doesn't look like a place where people die for photos, visitors are less careful than they would be on a cliff face or a mountain trail. A Japanese tourist died after slipping on the marble stairs near the Royal Gate while taking a selfie. The stairs are polished smooth from decades of foot traffic and can become extremely slippery, particularly in wet or humid conditions. Marble offers almost no grip. Tourists leaning backward to get the iconic full building shot are frequently off balance, with no awareness of what's directly behind them. India's broader selfie problem reached a point where the government launched a national Safe Selfie public awareness campaign. It remains the country with the highest number of photo-related fatalities in the world. Even at a landmark as structured and managed as the Taj Mahal, with guards, barriers, and established paths, the drive to capture the perfect shot continues to put people in danger. 6. Kilauea Volcano, Hawaii, USA. Kilauea on Hawaii's Big Island is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. It has been erupting almost continuously since 1983. Lava flows that reach the ocean produce dramatic plumes of steam and toxic gas, glowing red against the dark rock. and they produce photographs that are almost impossible to look away from. That visual pull has driven tourists into genuinely life-threatening positions for decades. When Kilauea entered a major new eruptive phase in 2018, local police set up roadblocks to keep people away from the lava flows. When that didn't work, they started making arrests. Tourists who couldn't reach the lava by land took to the water, hundreds of boats crowding together near the ocean entry points, dangerously close to boiling water and toxic lava haze. The lava ocean entry produces what's known as laze, a toxic mix of hydrochloric acid and glass particles, which can cause serious lung damage within minutes of exposure. Beyond the 2018 eruption, volcano tourism at Kilauea has produced a long list of serious injuries. People have burned their feet walking on thin crusts of cooled lava that collapsed into still molten rock below. Others have been hit by lava bombs, projectiles thrown from active vents. The Park Service issues constant warnings about unpredictable terrain and toxic air. People take the warnings, weigh them against the photo, and walk forward anyway. 5. Pamplona Bull Run, Spain. The running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain dates back to the 13th century. Every July, hundreds of participants run through the city's streets as 6 fighting bulls charge behind them. The run covers 875 meters and lasts roughly 3 minutes. Since records began in 1910, 16 people have been killed. Dozens more are gored or trampled every year. The addition of smartphones changed the dynamic entirely. Now, many participants are not running to escape the bulls. They're running toward them to get footage. In 2015, a Spanish man was gored to death at a similar bull run in the town of Villaseca de la Sagra while trying to film himself with his phone. At Pamplona itself, a participant was spotted taking a selfie during the 2014 run, leading city officials to pass a law making it illegal to take selfies with bulls during the event, with fines of over 4,000 euros. In 2019, an American man was gored in the neck while attempting to film himself during the run. He survived after emergency surgery. The problem is structural. The bull's running path passes through streets lined with spectators and barriers, and the people taking photos are inside that barrier, in the path of the bulls. The camera is pointed backward at the bull. The bull is not stopping. 4. Victoria Falls, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Victoria Falls straddles the border of Zambia and Zimbabwe and is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. At its peak flow, it is the largest waterfall on Earth by combined width and height. The falls drop 108 meters into a gorge below. At the Zambian edge sits a natural pool called Devil's Pool, a rock formation that creates a barrier right at the lip of the falls. During low water season, tourists can swim in it and sit at the very edge of the waterfall, with nothing but the rock ledge between them and the drop. The combination of a real waterfall drop and a swimmable pool right at its edge has become one of the most aggressively photographed tourist experiences in Africa. Deaths and near deaths at Devil's Pool have been documented for years. In 2009, a tour guide died after falling into the gorge while helping rescue a tourist who had slipped near the edge. In 2019, an Israeli tourist drowned in the Zambezi River near the mouth of the falls. The Zambia Police Tourism Liaison has publicly stated that no photo is worth dying for at Victoria Falls, a message that continues to be necessary because people continue to test the edge. What makes Devil's Pool uniquely dangerous is that the experience is marketed as safe because of the rock barrier. Tourists assume the barrier will hold them. In fast-flowing water at the edge of a 350-foot drop, that assumption has proven fatal. 3. Niagara Falls, Canada, USA. Niagara Falls sits on the border between Canada and the United States and is one of the most visited tourist destinations in the world, drawing around 30 million visitors a year. The Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side drops 188 feet into a churning basin below. The observation areas bring visitors to within feet of the edge. Barriers exist, but they are not insurmountable. And year after year, people go over the edge, both accidentally and intentionally. An estimated 40 people die at Niagara Falls every year. Some go over in barrels as stunts, some jump, but a meaningful number fall accidentally, slipping on wet surfaces near the railing, climbing over barriers to get a closer look or a better photo, or leaning too far over the edge. The mist from the falls makes every surface permanently damp, and the combination of wet rock and thousands of people jostling for the best angle has produced a consistently deadly result. The visual draw of Niagara Falls is so powerful that it has produced a long tradition of people treating the barrier as an inconvenience rather than a boundary. Tourists routinely climb over fences, wade into the upper river above the falls, and stand on rocks that are directly in the current. The falls are loud enough that warning shouts from bystanders often can't be heard until it's too late. 2. Death Valley, California, USA. Death Valley National Park holds the record for the highest reliably recorded air temperature on Earth, 134 degrees Fahrenheit, measured in 1913. In summer, ground temperatures regularly exceed 200 degrees. The park draws over 1 million visitors a year, many of them in the peak summer months, and many of them completely unprepared for what that heat actually means at a physical level. The landscape is strikingly alien: salt flats, sand dunes, eroded canyons, and it photographs like nowhere else on Earth. Heat-related deaths at Death Valley are a documented recurring problem. Tourists have died from hyperthermia while hiking short trails, standing at scenic overlooks, or walking from a parking lot. Several deaths have been directly tied to people spending extended time outdoors in summer heat for photography, standing in direct sun on superheated ground without adequate water or shade, waiting for the right light. The Park Service has issued repeated warnings that the heat at Death Valley kills people and that the danger is not abstract. Beyond heat, Death Valley also has flash floods that arrive with no warning through narrow canyon slots, venomous wildlife, and extreme remoteness. A medical emergency in the backcountry can mean hours before help arrives. Most tourists who die in Death Valley do not believe, in the moment, that they are in serious danger. The photos they came for are beautiful. The valley is an extraordinarily efficient killer disguised as a landscape. 1. Whakaari, White Island, New Zealand. White Island, known by its Maori name Whakaari, sits 50 kilometers off the northeastern coast of New Zealand's North Island. It is an active stratovolcano, and until December 2019, one of New Zealand's most popular tourist attractions. Roughly 10,000 people visited the island each year, arriving by boat or helicopter to walk inside the active crater, one of the most visually dramatic and photogenic environments on Earth. Tourists wore hard hats and gas masks and walked to within meters of the active vent. On December 9, 2019, the volcano erupted without warning while 47 tourists and guides were inside the crater. The eruption lasted approximately 2 minutes. It launched scalding steam, ash, and rocks across the crater floor. 22 people died, either immediately or later from severe burns. The remaining 25 were critically injured, most requiring intensive care. Many of the victims were cruise ship passengers on a day trip who had been given no meaningful safety briefing before being taken onto the island. The disaster sparked a criminal trial against the island's owners and tour operators for failing to meet their health and safety obligations. Evidence in court revealed that the owners were generating around 1 million New Zealand dollars per year from tourism to the island, and that adequate safety measures had not been put in place. The island remains closed to tourists. The last thing thousands of visitors photographed from inside that crater was the same thing that killed 22 of them. Between 2008 and 2021, tourism killed more people through photo attempts than sharks did through unprovoked attacks, by a factor of 4. These aren't freak accidents at remote locations. They are some of the most visited destinations on Earth, and every year people step past the barriers, past the signs, and past the warnings for a single image. The question isn't why these places are dangerous, it's why the camera changes the calculation so completely. If you enjoyed this video, click on the video on screen now to enjoy more beyond belief facts.